running for Future Napa, El Futuro de Napa. For me, the housing is a real crisis that's going on. We need to do more for our struggling families. Before the COVID crisis, we saw the housing issues be a real ripple effect across our community, affecting declining enrollment, pushing out younger families, and diminishing a lower workforce that really affects our businesses. Also, now with the new crisis with COVID-19, we need to elect leaders that, celebrate and value diversity, because city council is more than just fixing sidewalks and discussing budgets. Right, everybody deserves to feel safe and inclusive in this community. So today's purpose is to discuss the GPAC, the general plan update. So as a chartered city, we're required every 20 years to adopt the general plan. The last one was adopted in 1999. So, 1999 to now, it's a long time. A lot has happened. So now we're looking for the next 20 years, this general plan. We have to cover several elements that are required and some optional elements that we can add if we feel the need that it's valuable. For me, there are some optional elements that we need to add that feel critical to to have a healthy and vibrant community, and I'll go into that a little bit more. But first, I want to go into some of the basic information that we have for general plan. If you haven't been on here, it's napa2040.com. And the first thing I'd like you to do is, if you haven't done so, sign up for a newsletter. It's really important information that gets shared to you. It doesn't fill up your inbox. You'll get email here and there, and I'll share one with you. Can you see this one? Okay, so let me share this email here. So this is a quick hit from July 8th. So this is a kind of email you'll see: upcoming meetings, surveys, member content. So you'll get this kind of information to really stay up to date if you can't make it to GPAC meetings. A couple important dates. July 22nd, we have a virtual land use workshop. Currently, we're in the first element, which is the land use, which really creates a framework for a successful general plan. So mark your calendar, July 22nd, 5:30. It is virtual, so everything's gonna be virtual for a while, right? So I think most of us are used to that. Before that, July 13th, next Monday, it's our GPAC meeting. This is where the general plan committee will go over the land use, provide input, and once we kind of put together the GPAC meeting land use discussion and the virtual workshop, we're gonna put that together and create a draft land use, and that's gonna be sent to Planning Commission for review, and then Planning Commission sends that to the City Council. So that's the way it works. The General Plan Committee is gonna provide input. They're gonna really do a lot of the legwork, and then they're gonna send recommendations to Planning Commission. We're not decision-making body. What we're doing is gathering data, providing feedback to staff and to the consultants on elements of the general plan. Then that gets sent to Planning Commission, and City Council makes the final decision. So one of the things that we're trying to do is be very bold, because we feel as it goes to Planning Commission and City Council, and it may be, they may remove some things or be a little more conservative. So I'm reminding folks to be bold in some of the decisions that's being made as far as the elements and details in the general plan. So I want to go back to the website here. If you look at the timeline, our first meeting was in December 2018. So it's been quite a bit of time, and we're still working on land use. We haven't started another element yet, because land use is the most intense, comprehensive plan of the general plan that creates, like I said, the framework. And we can't really talk about anything else as transportation, climate change, until we really talk about land use. Land use is going to talk about density, and I'll show you some of the work that we've done on land use. But here's a timeline. So you can see we're pretty close to draft preferred plan. So we're a little behind, since the the COVID, we've also had to take a break to figure out how we're going to move forward. So thankfully now we're moving forward. This area, that's the RUL, the rural urban limit. So everything within that, it's within our the jurisdiction of the general plan update. So I want to, a second here. So we have some surveys that are going on right now. This survey has to do with the land use. So if you haven't taken a survey, it really helps. It's bilingual. So if you have any friends or anybody that prefers Spanish, they can also do this. So go to the same website, napa2040.com. This is information that we really want, because it's gonna tell us what the community feels is the right fit for certain areas, right? I know there's a question if we want buildings that are 8 or 9 feet, 9 stories tall. It's not that that's what we want. We just want to get your opinion on that, right? Most of us assume that we don't want that, but we're not going to really know unless we get that feedback, right? We want to make sure that we get the input from the community, from the stakeholders, not just staff and the consultants and the GPAC. It's really the public is kind of completing that wheelhouse that got to help us create a successful general plan. So now I want to share with you, one of the first things that we did was get a survey report from the community early last year. And I want to make sure this is the screen, you can see this. Okay. So one of the questions is important actions for a city to promote. And I don't think we're at all surprised that affordable and attainable Napa is one of them. Also preserving the natural environment. So those are 2 really important things that came up, 77% and 64%. So you can see here, affordable housing, family, community friendly, downtown traffic. So affordable housing is really at the top, right? So the land use is going to really help drive that vision of creating housing that's affordable, housing for our workforce, for struggling families. And that's part of one important element of my campaign is creating housing for the people that our workforce, our families. It's really diverse housing. Let me go ahead and, sorry, I haven't hosted that many meetings, so jumping from document to document. On the land use, we identified a few focus areas throughout the city where we can really look at density and create not only diverse in housing, but also our business community. The first one is the Trancas corridor. Trancas corridor, you'll find the hospitals, you'll find the Bel Air Plaza area, and you'll find a lot of other commercial locations. So what we identified is, better transportation for pedestrians, higher density business uses, offices. I think we all see how vulnerable we are right now, economically speaking, because we rely so much on tourism. So diversifying our economy, looking at tech, looking at more the medical industry to really diversify, and something like this happens again. I mean, we've been through crisis after crisis. We're a very resilient community. So we need, learning from this situation is very important. So this is the perfect time for us to make these decisions. It doesn't mean that we're going to immediately be denser. It just means that 10 years and 15 years, we have the framework to make those decisions based on the input from everybody, the GPAC and the community. And I want to show you what that looks like. But first, here's the other area, Jefferson Street. This one's more of a larger residential area with a school. So the priority here is safe access for pedestrian crossing, more alternative transportation, bicycles, and walking. And the next area, you look at the Lincoln Sosco area. This one I think has the most potential because we have a corporate yard. We have a lot of one-story commercial buildings. We have a bit of a industrial area. And as we look to redesign some areas, this can really create an opportunity to fulfill some of those visions that we have in place. Next one is Sosco Street Corridor. A lot of this has been developed. I think it doesn't have as much potential. The auto road does, where the dealerships are. You know, if you look at the Lincoln dealership, how they create a new building that looks, I think it looks nice, but there's some potential for redevelopment for some of the older dealerships, and we've added some housing there. So there's still some potential. So that's in the focus area. As that area grows, we want to make sure that the pedestrian access, that we create you know, a safe environment for our community. And these are some of the examples of what we're envisioning the area to look. For me, I really like this area here. It's something I really support because it separates bicycling, pedestrians, and you know, traffic, auto traffic. I think that, you know, I ride my bike, but I'm reluctant to drive it on busy roads because it's, you know, I don't trust so many drivers. I'm in the insurance business, so maybe I see a different view of that as far as accidents. So having something like this would really, I think, create, you know, more alternative methods of transportation, encourage people to get out of the car. So I'm going to jump over to the existing conditions report. The existing conditions report tells us where we are right now with our city. So this tells us what we're focused on so far since the last general plan, and how we're doing as far as environmental hazards, walkability, and complete neighborhoods. So if we go to, I'm going to jump to page 177 here. So this one gives us walkability and access to transit. So Napa is not doing very well with walkability. We're 46 of 100. So in this next page, it tells you to really get around Napa, you have to drive. So that's over 76% to get from one area to another. We know some areas are food deserts. They don't have the grocery store. The one where Safeway shut down, that area is a food desert. So if you're a senior, if you have limited mobility, if you're a teenager, it's really hard to get around town, at least to other areas and parks and you know, get out of the house. So that's an area where we need to improve, is the walkability, connecting neighborhoods to you know, the North Napa, Central Napa, downtown, and South Napa. I'm gonna jump to I got the wrong bookmark here. So out of the general plan elements, there's one that we can add as an optional element that I've been pushing for a while, which is a climate change element. I'm sorry, I had it saved here and I don't have it. I don't see it. So bear with me while I find that page I'm looking for, because this was a big eye-opening for me when I looked at this report and I saw that environmental hazards our community have is really affecting the health of certain areas of Napa. Sorry, I had it saved and it disappeared. I'll come back to that one. So one of the things I like to do with the climate change element is to create a baseline canopy for trees to know, what does the makeup of our trees look like. I think to reduce carbon footprint, trees is one of the best ways to do that. And I really hope I can find this page because this really kind of makes it clear what I'm talking about. There we go. So this page here, it's this one. Health vulnerabilities. So you can see the green is the healthy areas of our community, and the yellow and red is really not so healthy, right? So what the existing conditions is saying is that there's environmental hazards from a carbon footprint, from previous business occupancies that really, you know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find that page, that created pollution in the ground that seeped down to the water. So those are areas of Napa where we can improve. So climate change, it will be a general view of what we want to do, but it will be a driving force into creating a specific climate change element that will really drive change to improve these areas. Really, we have a diverse community, and this is the best way to keep that community healthy, is to add this optional element. And I believe that Scott Sedgwick said that they're pushing for that in the city council end too. So it's really a cohesive effort to make this happen. So looking at the time, I really want to be respectful of everybody's time. I had scheduled for 1 hour, but I'm not like most politicians. I don't like to talk very much. I like to engage with my audience and get some questions answered. So what I'm going to do is I like to open up for some Q&A and get a conversation going. So right now everybody is muted, so feel free to type a question or unmute yourself and raise your hand, and we can get a conversation going. If anybody has any questions. So housing for me is really important, and I wanted to show you this area where we have, it shows you how much we've built in the last 40, 60 years, really, and you can tell from 2010 to now, we haven't really built very much. There's a few areas. Somebody have a question?
Mm-hmm.
I sent you some, Bernie, by the chat thing.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. So I'm focusing on my campaign. I know there's several mayor candidates out there. I've worked with all of them, but what I really want to do is let our community know what I can do for that community, what I've been involved in my focus areas. So I know it's very important for other people, but I really want to refocus on what I can do and provide to create, a vibrant, safe, and community for all of us to live. And also, we represent our diverse community. I think it's time that we serve our Latinx community a lot better, and other people, color, in addition to the larger community. So that's something I can do very well. That I've been involved in several organizations that really push that vision forward. But I appreciate that question. There's a question about police and the new jail. Now, the jail is something the county is doing. As far as the police station, I have regular meetings with the sheriff and the chief of police about their role in the community. Today, I actually asked a specific question about having social workers taking on some of the workload versus the police making the contact. Their feedback was that you still want a police officer there, but they would appreciate some of the help from a social worker, just in case it escalates, that they have help from a police officer there. And really, that what's been challenging is the time of day where they want that kind of help, which is at night, not during the day, it's really hard to find help, somebody that wants to take on that role to deal with homeless and issues at night. There's a question about who's the consultants on the project. I'm going to refer to here because it's a name that I tend to butcher quite a bit. So it's Diet Embatia Urban and Regional Planners. Those are the consultants. And let me see if there's other questions here. Chris Benz, if I know the life expectancy data of Napa census tracts, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I have not looked into that one, but I appreciate you asking the question.
That was because Richmond used that to identify tracts where they had climate health issues. So it tended to be certain neighborhoods that had more pollution, had lower life expectancies, and it did correlate with income as well.
Yeah, on that document that I shared, let me go back to the existing conditions because it showed the environmental hazards and also socioeconomic variances. So health vulnerabilities is very much tied in to the socioeconomic vulnerabilities. So there's not much variation from that. So you're right. It is reflective of the negative climate, the income levels that really affects health, mental health, and the stress that affect our life expectancy. So, but that is something I can look more into and have a larger discussion with you, Chris. Thank you. There's a question about Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec for me it's near and dear to my heart because I was Park and Rec's commissioner for several years. That's where I got started when I realized I wanted to be in public service. I applied to be a Parks and Rec commissioner, and I learned quite a bit. And it's been tough to see the changes in Parks and Rec, specifically, you know, with the declining in the financial, the budget in the city. We were down $17 million in the projected budget for the 2020-2021 cycle. But by the way, this is a series of meetings I'm going to have. Today is GPAC specific. I will be talking about the budget in another meeting, and you know, more time and more detail into the budget. So I will address that in more detail. Michael, appreciate your question, but I do want to be able to restore Parks and Rec. There's so much work to do with Parks and Rec. You know, even before I got appointed in Parks and Rec, I think it was 5-6 years ago, we talked about the Kennedy Master Plan. We talked about Dwight Murray Plaza, which is very unfortunate because that would have been a great place to have the local businesses do outdoor dining. But because we weren't able to complete that, we've kind of missed that. That was a big missed opportunity. And I was very vocal about Dwight Murray Plaza because it's empty space. We're not utilizing that as much as we can. We can improve the downtown walkability, nighttime lighting. That way, what I want to do is make you know, our residents welcome to downtown, not just tourists. We have to balance it out. And I know many people are frustrated because it seems like we're really focusing on tourists, but we got to also make sure that there's equity between tourists and our residents. So downtown has is our town feel also. But back to Parks and Rec, yes, I do want to be able to restore at some point. But the $17 million hit is very serious, and we're not just going to make it magically reappear. It's going to be, it might be a 2 steps forward, 1 step back deal. Right, so about, like I said, two steps forward, 1 step back. So one of the questions is, you know, the projection is we're going to recover in 1 to 2 years before we can really begin to go back to some of the services that we had. So, you know, some of the lessons learned is diversifying our economy, like I said earlier. So tying that in to recovering in a safe way, it's hard because we want to welcome tourists back, but we also want to make sure that we're not putting our residents in harm's way. So it's going to be a learning process. I'm more on the side of caution, making sure we're wearing our masks, making sure we communicate to our community. Right now, the challenge is to the Spanish-speaking community, making sure that we continue to educate and encourage, the face mask washing. There's been certainly a big mistrust between government and the Latinx community, and I'm really hoping to bridge that gap to add more of a trust factor there. So when we not only translate the language, but translate the information into a way that's received well with trust and actual benefit to everybody. That's something that we're all scrambling to do. So the question is, Dwight Murray Plaza, why do we want to have a makeover? I think that there's some wasted space there. We had an opportunity years ago to improve it when we had some money in the budget and really create space for more outdoor activities. It wasn't specific to outdoor dining at the time. It was more a gathering place, a place for locals to come together. But given the situation, it will also been a good opportunity to create outdoor dining. So that way we can still support local businesses and not increase our risk of COVID-19 cases by going inside. Even next to my business here, I'm right next to Red Rock. They can't dine inside, so we're working with them to close up most of the parking lot, even if it's small, because that's the only way they're going to survive is outdoor dining. So if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I'm going to be on the city council when we adopt this general plan. And one of the things for me is important, and I almost feel like I'm repeating myself, but climate change, diversity in economy, housing, lowering the barriers in housing. It's not just the cost of housing, but it's the barriers. We have many families that live in households, 2 or 3 families live in a household. That used to be me. I used to live in a household with several other families. And it was really hard to move to another place in Napa. My wife and I were about to be 3 years now as homeowners. It's something that we struggled to be a homeowner for a long time. So it's lowering the barriers, such as helping with either moving expenses or first and last, because if you're paying first and last, that 3rd month is going to be very difficult. And we're talking about the working families, the young families. So as we build a housing program, we have to be mindful of not just the cost of the housing, but what it takes to actually move in and keep somebody in the household. And I'll share with you my personal experience. When my wife and I were first trying to buy a home, we qualified for down payment assistance. That down payment assistance that the city provides is from federal and state funds. But once we qualified for that down payment assistance, we didn't have enough purchasing power to buy a home in Napa. And once we had purchasing power to buy in Napa, we did not qualify for down payment assistance. So like many other families I know are moving out of town because it's cheaper to buy somewhere else. They qualify for that down payment assistance in other communities, and they can purchase a home in other communities. So that's another reason why we're seeing declining enrollment, because we're pushing out families. We're competing with other communities for the families that we really want, that we really want to keep here, because those are our future voters, those are our future workforce. So those are the things I'm going to be mindful of if I'm fortunate enough to be your city council person. So does anybody have any questions on some of the things I covered? So we have Lincoln Sosco area has some great potential. You mean for housing? So the Lincoln Sosco area does have a lot of potential for housing. Let me go back to the focus area here. So right here, I think because of the layout of the corporate park, with no existing communities surrounding it, we can go denser because we're not changing the makeup of an existing neighborhood. I think some of the challenges is if we add, 3 stories or 4 stories next to single family homes, that's going to be more difficult to overcome than creating a new community. So what I mean about potential is that there'll be less resistance to build denser housing there because we're not changing the makeup of a residential community. There's existing business community there that the new occupants can support. So it's going to improve and enhance that community by going denser and going higher as far as residential. And really mixed use. I mean, I don't see too much of mixed use there because there is existing business communities, but there still could be potential for additional office space, other things like that. But really the focus, I think, there should be housing, both affordable housing for workforce and maybe more of a community-based housing, more shared spaces that lowers the cost of living.
Say, Bernie, I have a question.
Okay.
It's Carol Barr.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good. Say, I sent you a question about tracking employees working from home due to COVID. It's been since like probably March of this year that there's been a huge number of people that are working from home, and they're probably not going to go back to their offices, pre-COVID. And so there's been articles written and a lot of information out there about office buildings getting repurposed because of this situation. It's almost like if you think about 9/11, a major event, and we never went back to the way it was before. We had a changed world, and many people are saying that COVID-19 is going to be like that. And so what my question is, given that there's such a change in our society and kind of rethinking and repurposing buildings, without this huge footprint of building brand new. And I liked what you said about that area off Saskell, not interfering with existing homes and so forth, and that's great. But there's also a lot of other buildings that might be utilized around Napa, and I want to hear what you have to say about the GPAC.
So, Carol, you're breaking up right.
We're looking at repurposing existing buildings, retrofitting, and so forth. They're huge. Can you hear me? Or
yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
So, so your question is about existing infrastructure,
Yes.
reutilizing it for a new purpose since COVID-19 really changed the makeup of our economy and the workforce. And you make a great point. I'm in several business groups, and that's been a discussion several times. With technology, it's easier for people to work from home, and business owners don't have to invest so much in the infrastructure. And I think that's a great opportunity to work with the business community, with developers, as we plan to use existing footprint, existing infrastructure for that. Also, I do see that there's a lot of one-stories areas and some of these focus areas like Jefferson, the Saskell Lincoln corridor, where I want to allow maybe either an overlay or zoning where in the future, if we can redevelop that, we can add 1 or 2 stories because I want to be able to add more housing stock, right? And I'm talking about diverse housing for our workers, because I know that when a young family's trying to buy a home, they're competing with everybody else. If they don't have kids, if maybe they're single or seasonal workers, they don't need a single family home, right? We need a smaller home, maybe shared kitchen, shared hallways, shared community rooms. So that's why I want to allow, in my opinion, a change of density, not skyscrapers, but a little bit more so we can design it for our workers. Our workers are closer to downtown, closer to business communities. And these are the focus areas I think that can really accomplish that. But But to what you're saying, yes, there's an added opportunity to do that. So that means that we don't necessarily have to build those 2 or 3 stories right away if we can repurpose the infrastructure. But I want to make sure that in the general plan, we add that direction because it's for 20 years, right? I don't want to wait 20 years to have that conversation and implement that and that flexibility and adding 1 or 2 or 3 stories.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. The other question was Costco, that area, adding dozens of homes, and how we're going to be able to, deal with the transportation. Again, it's about connecting neighborhoods, connecting that area to, closer to businesses. I like to be able to get I'm trying to remember the road, but from the South Marketplace down past the college, and not just have to be able to use Napa Vallejo Highway. I want to be able to add another road. There is existing access to that. We just need to develop those roads so we can diversify the transportation access, right? That and connect more sidewalks and crosswalks, enhance MBTA. They're piloting programs to make public transportation easier. I think they're having a big challenge right now with declining rides. They really got to reinvent themselves, and the city can be a really great partner with both MBTA and the college, because the college in that area can really add, they can be a great tool to be able to improve transportation, right? Part of new neighborhoods and existing neighborhoods is having complete neighborhoods where you don't have to drive to the other side of town for services that we need on a daily basis. Grocery stores, medicine, gas, those kind of things, parks. South Napa doesn't have a park, right? That I live in South Napa, that's my district. I mean, we have Fuller Park, but I have to cross several streets. I have to go through broken sidewalks. There's no crosswalks when I need to cross the street, right? So my wife and I want to take her kids. It's very dangerous, right? I ride my bike. I don't normally cross the Imola corridor to the north because I don't feel very safe. So there is an area, I'm hoping I can, give me a minute. I want to show you this. South Jefferson, and I've shared it on my Facebook page, that there is a designated area for parks, open space, not necessarily develop it for a high-end park, but some trails, a place where we can walk and breathe some fresh air and look at the blue sky away from lights and light trails. So that's something that's important for me and in District 4. So adding more parks. And another question about HHS property, that's been quite a discussion in the last several years. There was a recent opportunity to be able to preserve some of the history and add housing. At the same time, I think it was a real good blend of what a lot of us wanted to see there. Unfortunately, it did not work out. So one of the things I want to do is make sure that I'm involved in that process to preserve some of the history, to add housing, and still be respectful to that neighborhood. Almost seems like it's contradicting itself, but I think we can strike a really good balance with housing, preserving the history, and really adding to the character of that neighborhood. Nancy, I hope I answered your question there. So let me see if I can find.
Thank you, Bernie.
You're welcome. The other page I didn't share, but here it's in the website under resources is the vision and guiding principles. This is really what's kind of driving a lot of what the general plan and a conversation, connect the neighborhoods, right? I've been talking quite a bit about that. Balance tourism with local needs. That's important to me, right? We can't have a community of full of tourists. We have to make sure that we feel like we have neighbors that we can interact, and we feel like we're part of downtown as well. One of the things that I'm really proud of, seen out of this crisis is how the local community really saved a lot of restaurants. You know, they really made an effort to go and you know, dine out, whether it was DoorDash or drive somewhere that usually don't shop as much. But some of the restaurants, I think, are still going because we made a commitment to them. And that just really makes me proud of our community, because we were able to really show the purchasing power, the strength of our community, and how much we have to make sure that the locals feel welcome downtown. I don't want it to go back to normal, where now we have tourists downtown and we're not focusing on our local needs, right? We have to balance that. It's important to me. So I think I'm pretty much at the end of this, and anybody have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. You know, I really hope to have your endorsement. I know some of you don't live in my district, but you don't have to live in my district to help me to endorse me, or just ask me questions and challenge me, because I may not have all the answers, but I do have the work ethic to be able to get stuff done. I really care about the future of this community, and my approach is listening first, really understanding what matters to people, and then do my due diligence, listen to staff. So when I make a decision, the decision is a product of all those efforts to make sure that, you know, I'm confident in a decision, because you got the work done first. You got to put the work in. So I welcome everybody to continue this conversation with me. And yeah, I think we can do a photo here. Does anybody, if you're not okay with a kind of a group picture, I'm gonna see if I can do it. You can turn off your camera. If you're okay with it, leave it on. I'm just gonna do a screenshot here and see if I can make this work. Doesn't look like it can. Okay, it's not working from my end. But I want to thank everybody for joining me. You can send me an email at napabernie@gmail.com. Visit my website. You can contact me through there. I try to make myself as available as possible. There's through Facebook, on about my website, my business. You know, I don't hide. So even from tough questions, and if I don't have the answer, I'll find it. I'll be able to get back to you on that. So thank you everybody for joining me. Stay tuned for more events. I'm going to talk about housing more specifically. I'm going to talk about our budget, and then as more issues come up, I'm going to add more to there. So please sign up to my newsletter so you get these messages. I know some of you didn't get it, so you know, yeah, pretty much for the newsletter, I have to have your permission. So you go on here and you just put your information, and I'll have permission and make sure that you get the feature newsletters. So that's it for me. Everybody have a great night. Buenas noches.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Bernie.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bernie.
Welcome, Deb. Thanks. Richard, I think if you go to file, you should be able to attach the file there under the chat feature. Let me unmute you. So I just unmuted you, Richard.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, sir.
I've got a picture of your daughter that I took down at the Vets Park that I wanted to send you.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. You
Okay.
can email it to me at napabernie@gmail, or on here you can, let me, I'll write the email so you can write that down. Did you get my email? under the chat feature?
Yeah, I did.
Perfect. Yeah, so you feel free
Every time
to.
we do something on the screen, it changes the configuration.
I know it's
have to hunt it
technology, right? I'm still learning.
Okay, I'll send it to there.
Great, thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Take care.
Let's get more people next time.
Yeah, it's the first one, so hopefully spread the word, and I'll try and get more invitations out.
Well, make sure you send it to the DEM site.
Okay, will do.
And if you have contact with any of the indivisible people, send it to Lisa Sarin
Yeah, I can send to Lisa.
and Ereet of Women's
Ereet.
March.
Okay.
And there's a couple others that I can't think of their names right now, but they should spread the word.
Okay.
Some of them are Green Party, but they're still looking for candidates.
You know, it's for me, it's Green Party, Dems, anybody else that wants to be part of the conversation. You know, I'm not gonna exclude anybody. You know, you want to be part of it. Let's talk. You know, I'm not gonna agree with everybody, but it's good to make people feel included.
Are those Romans on your shelf back there?
Yeah, those are. So those are for the Dia de los Muertos.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So
So-
they're Hispanic or Latino?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some Aztecs on this side here, mariachi over here, and then that's the flag raising in Iwo Jima, Marines. That got older Marine vet gave me that one.
Cool. Semper Fi.
All right,
Okay, Bernie.
take care.